Andrew, before we get to the show today, we have a new partnership. We're doing this with Elite Sports, Elete, and they're a company that helps athletes. They've done over 100 athletes make custom brands, help them establish a name for themselves, selling merch with their own brand for this whole NIL deal stuff. And they've also done a bunch of work with Texas State athletes specifically. And I got through the podcast. I'm talking about how much I love Ben McClain, basically. He has an incredible site on Elite Sports. If you use code SQUARE, you help out the podcast a lot. A portion of the proceeds from all the items on Ben's store or any of the athlete store that they have goes to them. Of course, this is an NIL deal, so you're putting money in athletes' pockets. If you need to help gear up for a game or whatever, go to Elite Sports. I think over the course of this week, you're going to see me gradually like appearance wise, going
You look
down.
cute. You look cute right now, so I'm looking forward to the crash.
Look good now, but I think by Thursday, once we do our last deal, if we did one on Friday, I would be really screwed, I think.
Tired of winning the tailgate, but losing the games? We can't help that. But we can tell you what the hell is up with each team and what's going on across sunny San Marcos. Texas State fans, get on your feet. You're listening to Squarin' Around with Jakob Rodriguez and Andrew Zimmel.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Squaring Around. My name is Jakob Rodriguez. That's the Texas State Sports Press, Andrew Zimmel. This is the Republic of Football Podcasting Network. Episode 1. I think we did this in our own show too, Zim. When we first started it up, we were like very down in the dumps, I feel, about our own institution. I feel like kind of rightfully so, And then episode 2, we were like, hey, we're not masochists and we don't like this treatment. We do want to go in a different direction, but we did have to give that kind of history lesson of kind of the pains and kind of the ebbs and flows, the roller coaster mentality of not only the school but the team itself.
It was kind of like the airing of grievances. You know what I mean? Like you gotta really let all that toxicity out before you can like accept love again. You know what I mean? And that I think that's what it was. We had to exercise those demons, get all that out, and then from there you can move on.
Well, that happens at, holiday gatherings across the country, right? Before the family comes together, they must fight first about either sports, news, politics, you name it. And so that's basically what happened, I think, in that first episode. We just had to rehash everything and kind of give you the Texas State in a nutshell. Boom.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So today I want to talk about #TakeBackTexas, a thing that the football team has totally dominated, totally flipped the script, reinvented, reestablished, reinsert adjective. They've done it better than I think probably a lot of the teams gave them credit for coming out of the gate, right?
I'll own up to it. Yeah, so they started using the #TakeBackTexas, and I remember immediately I was like, that's kind of lame. Like kind of childish, you know what I mean? Like
we did think they were acting corny on Twitter because all the coaches are very active on Twitter, and until they had this Take Back Texas next to it, it was kind of like, kick rocks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need these constant updates of you guys in the gym.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was. I'll be the first to admit, anytime a team tries to do something like that, unless you start bringing in recruits, it's kind of like, well, this is kind of lame. But you mentioned like revitalizing it, right? And yeah, a lot of people will use a Take Back Texas. You think about programs that were good and then weren't good anymore. So like SMU, for example, SMU would be a school that would probably try to use the Take Back Texas. And I think they have in the past. But the big thing about social media is you have to flood it. You really have to just do like a ton of use it a bunch so that your hashtag moves to the top of the pile. So when people look for your stuff, it'll show up. So now, with that little behind the curtain, like how social media works, you kind of understand why they were doing it so much, that every single day, 10 times a day, it was Take Back Texas, which, I mean, the premise of it is a really good premise too. Recruit local guys, recruit Texas guys, and it's worked so far.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, is bringing back Texas high school football, recruiting Texas high school football players, this recommitment to this thing that is literally in Texas State's backdoor. Why that wasn't a thing in the first place is as good a guess as yours as it is mine.
And I think we already saw it. I know you were supposed to rehash stuff, but I'm pretty sure Bailiff and Kinney were talking to the Texas High School Football Association like this past week.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they were, like in their bag already over there, which I cannot tell you the last time Spavital was there. I can't tell you the last time Withers was there either. You know what I mean? So maybe it's just front of mind for me, but it does feel like a concerted effort. Like, all right, we are going all out, balls to the wall, trying to make sure that we have good relationship with the coaches, and from there, a trickle-down effect to the players.
Claws to the wall. Shout out KTSW and Andrew Zimmel.
What?
But going back to last week, right? We talked about kind of the expedited hiring process. Everybody thought they were going to have to wait kind of like that 2-week state period. Texas law is like, oh, this is a state agency hiring someone. They got to wait and they got to post the job and stuff. At the end of the day, this is a football coach. And the university has had this ginormous Dr. Pimple Popper sized issue on their face.
My name is Todd. I'm 53 years old and I have a bump in my head. My bump is the size of 1.5 golf balls. It's not really soft, it's kind of like, spongy. But the bump started about 25 years ago. Not even a quarter size bump. Over the years, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger.
One of the most front-facing pieces of them. And so they needed to fix that immediately. And so that's what they did. Within like a week, basically, they had their guy. They made their offer. They signed the check. Boom. It was off to the races. And so GJ Kinney used that time to, like we were saying last week, recruit basically at both places while coaching his way to a semifinal appearance in the FCS playoffs.
Which I can tell you right now, as a fan of, like, if that ever happens to us, to Texas State, I hate it when coaches do that. I absolutely hate it. Now, it benefits us this time, so you'll accept it, right? Like, if it helps me, I'm not going to complain about it. But, man, that bothers me so much when coaches do that.
They busted out that Take Back Texas model, too, that the hashtag and kind of like the, I guess, just way of thought, too, on the recruiting trail. Do you know who's credited with doing that?
No.
It's Coach Matthew Gregg, the corners coach at Texas State, who, according to GJ Kinney, is a great recruiter. And then when he tells you he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So he created this hashtag. And, GJ Kinney's not one for super like lambasting on his own pedestal and stuff. He's a short, simple guy. And that's what he said, too. He's like, we're not going to have many, catchphrases or slang or, stuff like that. He's breaking out on champions, which is the same thing that he broke out on last year with UIW's team on their way to the FCS semifinal appearance.
Yeah. I got to give Coach Gregg a lot of credit on that. This guy, he's unbelievable recruiter. And I tell the recruits that come in all the time about Coach Gregg, there's coaches in college football that get the job done and don't get the job done. Coach Gregg delivers almost every time. He's an unbelievable coach, unbelievable recruiter, and he came up with the hashtag and we went with it, and I think the reception has been awesome. I think people like it. I think it's really cool. So, and it's what we want to do. We want to take back Texas. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, that's something that we did last year at UIW and we're doing here. And that's we talk about habits reflect the mission. The mission is to be champions. On the field, classroom, community. So it's easy. We won't have a lot of different slogans and logos and chants and all that throughout my time here at Texas State. It's pretty simple. Have it reflect the mission, and the mission's being champions.
I like it. I can tell you right now that there's a lot of people who don't like a bunch of catchphrases. I personally like a bunch of catchphrases. I'm an action hero type of guy.
Wow. Pow.
Yeah. Row the boat, that type of stuff. I like those catchphrases. A lot of coaches don't. So
you're corny.
Does not take, huh?
You're corny.
Yeah. I'll own up to it. So I don't, it doesn't shock me though with Kenny that he's not one of those guys, because he doesn't seem like a lot of frills type of guy.
Just
you look at the photos from spring training, like the spring practices and stuff like that, and he very much casual guy. Doesn't look like he's doing a whole lot in the wardrobe department.
Football guy.
Huh?
Football guy.
Oh, for sure. He looks like he and I could dress at the same spot. just hoodies, hats, walk around with a whistle. I fit right in.
What more do you need? That's his profession. If he was a professor, that'd be a different thing. But
I
he's
think
not.
I could be if I was like a doctor, like a neurosurgeon. I don't know if I could wear the scrubs. I think I'd have to wear the Jordans, get a tracksuit going. That's just the way I fit. That's what I wear.
That's his mold.
Me and Kenny.
Yeah. Birds of a feather,
For sure.
Also with this Take Back Texas model, also, they had to recruit Texas. So what did that mean? Well, we built a map for you, actually, in one of our past episodes. It's kind of insane to see the swath of land that they covered. They went north, south, east, west, all over Texas. I think just over a 2-week period. That's what that map is. It's a 2-week period that me and Zimmel broke out and kind of were like, hey, this is where they were. And I was just scrolling on Twitter, just like looking at all the high schools that they were interacting with. And that's how we got that. But over like 50 schools, I think, in a 2-week period. Some of them are also obviously double dipping. They're traveling in pairs or twos or three, whatever. But
they're also traveling. They're also traveling to places that have multiple high schools in like a centralized area. I think we talked about Dallas and Houston, and just down the road in San Antonio. Like I think that was a really important thing. What's funny to me when I learned about like recruiting relatively recently is that a lot of these coaches, they will go to these places, but they also are trying to make connections with the coaching staffs at these places to say like, hey, if you see anybody that we need to put on our radar, let us know. If there's a sophomore who comes in that's just throwing 300 pounds up on the bench press, like give us a phone call. Let us know what that looks like. You know what I mean? If there's a guy who comes from his sophomore year to his junior year and all of a sudden he's going from playing left tackle to running back, then we'd like to know about that guy. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of it too, is that you go to these different places and recruiting the kids is important. Bringing players in is important, but it's the relationships with the coaches that I think goes under the radar. That to me is the most important thing about what they're doing right now.
And that's kind of the sexy thing in high school football, isn't it? Like finding kind of some young high school football kind of guru. Maybe that's been there for a long time.
Can we write a scouting fan fiction for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where Coach Rodriguez goes on the road looking for his next, we have a hole at left guard. Where can we fill that spot in? And you go to a tiny West Texas town and find a guy that, he doesn't have a bench set, but you know what he does pick up? Oil rig equipment. That's his weightlifting. And you're like, oh, perfect. We can have a
5'7" quarterback from McAllen, Texas. Who am I gonna get?
That would be the fan fiction, the recruiting fan fiction that Jakob could write about Texas State.
I'll tell you what, when the new NCAA comes out, I'm definitely going to make myself a 5'7" quarterback. Dual threat, of course. Maybe we're in the Wildcat. Who knows? Maybe we're that small of a school. McAllen Memorial High School. And get recruited at Texas State, take us to a national title.
I
not because I'm that good, but because I'm that good at video games.
I love your dreams.
Thanks, buddy.
Can you talk just about the road dog aspect? We've all seen the hashtags of where you guys have all been. A lot of schools really quick. Could you just kind of talk about that?
Yeah, we want to get out to as many high schools as we can and develop those relationships and that part was, obviously when we get the job identifying and what we talked about is, signing high school kids and it's been very receptive and the high school coaches are pumped to see us, back in schools and offering their kids and there's so many alums and you go to each school. I don't think I've been to one where, hey, I went to Texas State, so happy and so glad you guys are here and all that. So that part's been really fun and really exciting as well.
So they were everywhere. I think I even sang a song. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. But this, I think we can both agree on this, Zimmel, is that this recruiting cycle was decidedly different from the way it looked, the way it felt, the actual recruits that we got. We're talking about 4 stars, 3 stars, some of the highest rated players themselves that Tech State had ever recruited. And for a while, I guess I felt, you felt, some alumni definitely felt that there was kind of this football vacuum in San Marcos. It's like there's things going on in San Antonio, come across the way, just kind of drops off completely. And then you have Austin Westlake and stuff, which you know a bunch about because that's what you covered in college.
Well, and you talk about the football vacuum. it really felt like that because, like in Austin, it was 24/7, 365 high school football, and then the University of Texas, and then down the street, UTSA is building a monster down there, and it really did feel like you were kind of stuck between two of these vacuums. And I'll say this: I talked to an Austin guy recently, and he said part of the charm of UT is it's the brand and everything else like that, but it is so close to Wimberley. It's so close to San Marcos. So it's funny that like that is a selling point for them. I imagine San Antonio does that as a selling point too. Like, hey, your parents can visit New Braunfels, your parents can visit San Marcos. There are nice areas around here, and yet the place that is the nice place can't get these players for the longest time, right? Like, yeah, we're close to this nice thing, but the nice thing can't get them. I thought that was kind of ironic, kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that we when we talk about the players that they're bringing in, the 4 and 5 star stuff doesn't really like make me all that much like make me excited. I understand like that's the thing that wags the tail, but like to me it just doesn't. I need to see like on field. Does it translate? I think it's interesting, and we haven't talked about this yet, Jacob, but Spavital's plan was like to do the transfer portal, like really hit it hard, and I think that's where a lot of coaches are going right now. Is like hit the transfer portal hard. Do you think that this is a better idea? Like, not a better idea, but like it's a very different to go after high school players. It's like a real different like kind of vibe here. Can you already kind of feel that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, because especially the things that you can get out of the transfer portal are completely different than what you would get in high school. You're a guy's first offer out of high school, and GJ Kinney talks about this actually at National Signing Day.
I think one good story from this signing class is Drew Donnelly, a guy that I identified really early when I was at Hawaii. Being the first offer is big. You'll see that a lot with our staff. We want to be the first offer if we can. Now we want to do our due diligence and that do the whole process. But if we can be someone's first offer, that's something special to these kids and their high school coach. And you believed in them first, and that's what happened with Drew. We believed in him first, and to get him. Someone with his type of speed, talking about Drew a little bit, his production, you see him, going down as a gunner at Cincinnati and the speed he has. He ran a 10-1 in high school. We feel like this guy can come in here and make an immediate impact. So really excited to have Drew.
But that means everything. You're always going to remember the first time you got an offer. You're always going to remember the people that offered you, the way that they offered you, and like what that meant for you. Obviously it's not like a Lamar Jackson type situation where it was like, well, you could come to school here, but you're not going to be throwing that football, sir.
Mm-hmm.
What you get in the transfer portal is completely different, right? You're getting experience, you're getting strength, size, everything that somebody else created. And now you're trying to look for somebody who's looking for an opportunity to make a direct impact on your team. And you're promising that to 30 people to try to get 11 on the field.
I look at it this way too, that like you're bringing these players in and the goal is to have them stay for 4 years or 3 years or 5 years. Like your goal is to have them stay their entire collegiate career here versus going to the transfer portal where they might go right back in. There's a real shot that a lot of these guys that go in and then they immediately jump right back out. You know what I mean? So I think that that's kind of the difference too, is that like if you're going to really try to build a culture of success at Texas State, going after the high school players, bringing them in, winning games on the field is what matters most. That's the biggest thing right here when we talk about the building block of a program. Winning games is the most important thing. Because if you win games, they're not going to leave. If you're winning games at Texas State, like let's just say 6, you're going to a bowl game, okay? Those players aren't going to try to dip to go to somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like that to me is the most important thing. And that is going to be really the, I think, first litmus test of this team, right? Like playing the games is going to be super important. But when we talk about recruiting, what it looks like in the offseason, what does it look like in December? Are those high school players staying around? That's going to be important.
Especially if they felt like they were the ones that helped build that, right? Like, why would you leave something if that's your home in a lot of ways?
Well, we've seen it happen. You know what I mean? Like 10, 15 years ago, I would agree with you. But we've seen that happen now enough where there's college players who build a really good program. They get a team to the best record they've had in 10 years. And then they go, you know what? I'm trying to go to the draft. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I'll go to a different program. I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to, say, you're going from Boise State to UCLA. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we've seen it happen relatively recently in the way college football landscape looks. So I'm not willing to go out on a limb and say, like, if you build something, they're going to stick around.
36 recruits is what we have right now. There's some discrepancy too, because we had one guy initially announced in that signing class, then he wasn't anymore, and it's kind of all depending on grades and some other stuff that ultimately is nothing to do with the school, really. It's just these standards that have been set by the school. So if you don't have the grades, you cannot play, obviously. So
which makes it hard for you to count who's here and who's not.
shout out to Colton McWilliams for helping me compile that list, because as soon as National Signing Day ended, we had to kind of flip the script, go cover basketball, then baseball, and you know the rest. You guys are sports guys, you know. Crossover season happened. So I just kind of fell off our recruiting train. Had a really great list, and then Colton helped me put it together today. So shout out Colton again.
Yeah, it went from like 35 to 37 to 40 to where it's actually 36. So, you know, that's to me is the nice thing about college athletics, is that you can get on the message board and all of a sudden everybody's freaking out because so-and-so left. You're like, wait, what do you mean so-and-so left? I thought he was on the class. A lot of fluxation, a lot of, you know, things moving all different ways.
So can I ask you about something? This is specific to this recruiting cycle, actually, is Bo Corrales. And I don't think you or I were covering this team when he committed originally to 2016 the Withers team. I think he played high school at Pflugerville or Round Rock. I can't remember. It was outside of Austin. And he committed originally to the Bobcats, ended up playing at UNC. So, you know, had the Columbia blue jersey, all that stuff. Now he's coming back, Texas State. So that's kind of cool. The transfer portal kind of 360 worked around.
Well, I need you to put something in perspective here. 2016 was 6 years ago. So this is the equivalent of a grown man coming back. Like this is
Stetson Bennett.
This is Stetson Bennett. This is like Uncle Rico coming back. 6 years is a long freaking time in sports, man. And like, you know, think about that. Like when you were in high school, you're 14, 15 years old, lining up against a 17, 18-year-old in practice that first day of two-a-days just to do some like, you know, light hitting drills. And you were like, geez, this guy's 4 years older than me. There's a big physical difference between a senior and a freshman. There's a big difference between a guy coming on campus at 18 years old and a guy who's almost 25. You know what I mean? Like that's something else. Thank you, COVID.
Georgetown. That's where Bo's from. That was way off.
Thank you, COVID. Thank you for giving me an extra couple years of eligibility here.
Dr. Mason Harrell. We've talked about that situation before, too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, shout out to them. Like, you turn a bad situation into a really good situation. Because, like, you get your grad school done, you get into the workforce, all of a sudden, you can get a 6-figure job. It's like, hey, I'm doing my thing, man.
Well, that was like a huge factor in, you know, we're in March right now. So the NCAA tournament, both sides, men and women, all over the place, too, from mid-major to us, you know, like Coach G was talking about it the whole time, too. There's these COVID seniors. I've had these group of girls this whole time. It's kind of miraculous.
I mean,
they're talking about, too, you know, talking about the Final Four and also bringing it back to the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Coach Z was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to have a group of seniors like this again because of NIL, because of the transfer portal, because of a lot of things.
You know, yeah. And I mean, look at UConn yesterday. They just won the national championship for the men's side of things. And I think they had a couple 5-year seniors. So it's funny. We complain, you know, people complain all the time about college athletics. Like, oh, people are going pro too soon, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, you know, you had a situation this year where there's a lot of guys who are like, hey, shouldn't you have left already? Shouldn't you like be in the workforce? You know, we don't have a workforce problem, Jacob. It's just all these college athletes just never graduated.
So, yeah, you kind of have those like Tom Brady situations, like down the road, UTSA, Frank Harris, obviously has had super crazy success. Probably could have thrown his name in the draft and probably got drafted, honestly. He had a great year this year. But you have those like Tom Brady type situations where all these like new guys are coming in. Jimmy Garoppolo, insert whatever name.
I was wondering where you're going with this metaphor.
But Texas State never really had that, and it felt like Texas State couldn't like land those recruits. In fact, some of our coaches went on the record with other journalists and said, we cannot land these recruits verbatim because we don't have an indoor practice facility, because we're too small of a school, because our only selling point is the river.
The indoor practice facility, I think, is really important because it gets to be 1,000,000,000 degrees outside. But like, I don't know, man. I feel like there's like ways around that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, they already have a way around it. They were practicing at San Marcos High School. Spoiler.
Well, or just at night.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
Get your clocks back, gentlemen.
Well,
go to night school.
Don't take an 8 a.m. when you know you're going to have a late night practice. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory there. You know what I mean? You shift the whole day back. Problem solved. I don't know.
So to immediately combat this, as part of the Take Back Texas inaugural class, enter Malik Hornsby, which we had some fun because immediately people were like, does he even go to school at Texas State? They were looking him up on Cat's Web and all these other places. And I had to find him and say, hey, no, he is not at Arkansas or wherever people were saying he was at.
Nebraska,
the Big Red. There you go. I emailed their registrar directly and was like, can you verify, is this a student there? No, we made Big Red Wave headlines in our first week of the podcast, basically.
Big Red Wave headlines. Yeah, I mean, this is probably, would you say this is the player people are most excited for?
It's the player they should be the most excited for, because if GJ Kinney wants to play this high-paced, super fast offense, he's going to need a quarterback that can do it all, and apparently this is the guy that can.
Yeah, we were tackling today. We went out there and tackled. A lot of times, we'll go thud. We have a couple different tempos, but we tackled today. I wanted to see the guys get out there and I wanted to see defense tackle. I want to see running backs run through the, arm tackles. And obviously we're always going to stay off the quarterbacks. But I thought we ran the ball pretty well today. I thought the defense did a good job of taking the ball away. That we were a little sloppy at times on offense, but that's part of it. So it was good to put those quarterbacks in different situations. I think all three of those guys are doing really well. Like I said, it's early in the scheme, so it's one of those situations where they're still learning how we want to do things and the footwork and the where their eyes are supposed to be. But I think all three of them are doing really well. I think CJ had a really good day today. I thought Malik did some good things, and same with Ty. So all three guys are kind of progressing the way you want to. We just need reps, and putting these guys in live situations like that. Obviously, we're never going to touch the quarterback, but putting these guys in live situations and them feeling that pressure in the pocket and having to throw the ball on time. All those kind of good things are really good for the quarterback to feel. Yeah, I think we got all three of those guys have been former places, so Malik's done a good job of picking up the offense, and the talent is there. He's one of the fastest guys on the team, if not the fastest. He's got a big arm. It's just learning the scheme and continuing to get those reps and getting better. But he's been awesome. He's been a true quarterback and kind of handling things the right way. And you have good days, bad days, and he's bounced back and had some really good days and had some really, not really bad days, but had some really good days and some bad plays, and he's been able to bounce back and go to the, that next play mentality. But I've been very pleased with Malik and kind of where he's at. Coach Leftwich has done a great job there. And same thing with the other two guys. They've both done a really good job.
I've heard this before, though. That's more where my thing is. Like, I've heard the we got this quarterback. Everybody's really excited. I think his name was Damian Williams was the quarterback a couple years ago, like 5 years ago. And then it was Brady, and then it was Vitt, and it never panned out. So
you know what it is? It's going back to NCAA. We're playing the tutorial like over and over and over again with just a new creative player.
Hell yeah!
This time though, we paid for the expansion pack. Zimmel.
Got the DCL.
We got the DLC. We got the skins. We got all the colorways of jerseys. Whatever you want. No excuses.
I'm hoping Malik is good. I don't even need him to be great. I don't need him to be the best player in the Sun Belt. I don't need him to be the best player in the Sun Belt West. I just need him to be a competent enough quarterback that Texas State isn't having to run bubble screens. You know what I mean?
So, right? The last time we were on here, I was talking about how people were already talking about what are we going to do in a year when GJ wins us a national title and he leaves. People have already said, what are we going to do next year when Malik wins the Heisman and he goes to play for Alabama or something? It's just these ridiculous takes that, unfortunately, you and I have to sift through.
It's fine. Hope springs eternal, right? Like, and you're never going to be like, hey, you shouldn't be hopeful for your team. I will say that my expectations for this team are, I feel very realistic. I feel like a Malik 1,400-yard passing season. It needs to be more than that. It needs to be like probably 3,000-yard passing season. Let's say 13 to 17 touchdown passes because they're going to run the ball. Like I feel like those are pretty solid numbers that like are doable. 6 wins, that's a doable like thing. So that's what I'm hoping for here.
The thing I think, we're talking about how good Malik has the potential to be. The thing I think he is good enough to be is just end any immediate like quarterback talk, because it's like that's always the sexiest thing to talk about. Springtime, is there a quarterback battle? And you were talking about it too. For the longest time, Texas State has kind of had that initial narrative, right? Who's going to start? Is it going to be the first start? Are we going to, for some reason, burn a red shirt when we don't need to? But right? Yeah, I think Malik is good enough to just end it right there. There's no quarterback controversy at Texas State. That's our quarterback. He's gonna
well, and that's what I hope. And you talk to coaches and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, it's an open battle." It's like, no, it shouldn't be. You should just say that it's this guy, because it stops, it quells all that type of stuff. But a couple of years ago, it was like, is it Vitt or Brady? And it was clearly Brady. And you were the person saying that it wasn't. And it was like, now I'm glad that we're on the same page here that it should be Malik.
I was the mayor of Vitt Marcos. I'll be the first to admit I was not. I guess no. I'm a big Brady guy now that he's not playing.
Oh, you're so full of it.
He's got his own podcast too. It's pretty cool.
You're so full of it. No, you were not pro Brady. You weren't anti Brady, but you were not pro Brady, and you're not pro Brady now.
You know what we should have done? We should have had just a run first offense that entire time they were there, because God help them, they did not have a lot of help up front.
Well, whatever. We don't need to rehash 5 years of offenses, but yeah, it's this year. They're supposed to have an offensive line. They're supposed to have a quarterback that can throw. Malik is relative. From the little film I've seen of him, he is relatively mobile. I'm not saying he's a run first quarterback, but he's relatively mobile. He can move around the pocket a little bit. The wide receivers, we have not heard anything about yet. We'll touch back in with the guys who are at the spring practices. Haven't heard anything about them. Haven't heard anything about the running back room. So it's like we have 2 rooms that we're good with.
Yeah. Huh? Good pieces of the unit, right? Offensive line and quarterback.
And the quarterback.
Well, it's like, DBs too. We signed everybody basically as a DB on our list.
Isn't it funny? You talked about like the person who started Take Back Texas, the number 1 recruiter in this, is a defensive back coach.
Nailed.
And we bring in all the DBs. You think that there's a reason for that?
Josh Eaton is playing both sides of the ball. Interesting.
I'm putting that out there.
I think, that's probably the weakest thing up front is, we were able to keep Ashton Hawkins and, some other guys that were like, whoa, we're getting a new coach. I'm out of here. Skedaddle. And then GJ brought him in and was like, hey, you fit perfectly. Just stay here. And they were like, fine.
You fit perfectly. Yeah, I've heard that before. Look, I'm just saying that it's like all these things. It's spring. You can cut the freaking cake 1,000 different ways. It's just like, I want to eat. That's what we're waiting for here.
I will make my way out to a spring game. Work's been crazy. And we got 3 episodes actually this week. So, that won't happen. But that's one of the first things I'm going to look at is wide receivers, running backs. Who are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Jacob. Did you know we have a school here? Because for the longest time, we didn't know who anybody was or, what was going on. Or can we even keep the ball for 4 downs in a row?
Can we keep the ball moving down the field?
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, we're rehashing stuff that we don't need to rehash. The wide receiver room, the running back room, those are 2 question marks, I think, coming into this spring.
I want to talk about, too, 2 weeks ago now, Texas State hosted a massive junior day. We're talking about that vacuum that existed for the longest time. Now suddenly Texas State's got the hottest ticket in town on a Saturday in March, late March. But over 200 recruits were there. Some actually even ended up signing. We had a couple transfers, the guy from Duke, who ended up signing with the Bobcats. And just kind of a way for Texas State to showcase itself on a spring practice in the middle of March, well away from their recruiting stuff. The number that they're trying to hit is a fluid 85. So that, obviously people are going to be like, you know what? I don't fit into this offense. I got to go get playing time somewhere else and dip. That's the thing that happens. Some people are going to figure out how they're getting utilized. The same thing will happen. And then Texas State's going to realize that they need wide receivers. And then they're going to go do that. Hopefully get some more.
I was curious about this because it's, I have no real understanding of how the weather works in Texas right now. Was it a nice weekend? Because I don't think you can beat a nice San Marcos weekend in March. Mm-hmm. I think that's like perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So it's like that to me is a big selling point too. Is that if it's
my weather guy in Corpus would call it a sunny delight.
A sunny delight, yeah. Sunny delight near the river. I think that's a big selling point too. Because there's another world where it's rainy and overcast, and those days in San Marcos suck. So I'm glad that it was a nice day for him.
And the SWAT boat has to rescue you? Yeah, not fun.
No, not fun at all.
There is like one day a year where, as a student, you have to traverse through a tsunami because the university does not cancel classes in a very timely manner. Because they're like, oh, well, we're going to wait out the storm a little bit, right? And then immediately goes to like a Category 9 hurricane. You're like, ooh, you're in a tube now going down Sesame. It's not fun.
We need to find out who designed the sewage and the runoff, because there is none. It like all pools. It doesn't make any sense. It seems like you're walking in water everywhere. I'm walking downhill in water. How does this work? And the wind. I don't know how the wind ends up getting so bad because there's so many hills. You're in Alkek and you're looking over the quad and you're like got 70-mile-per-hour winds to your back. It's like, what's going on?
I ran into Alkek because I had a class in Derrick or something, around that little Alkek-ish area. And so I ran to Alkek because I needed to print something anyway. And it was pouring rain, horrible weather. And so I'm on the 3rd floor where all the periodicals and stuff are because I'm a news guy and I got to read. I'm looking out the window as I'm reading and I see this grown woman look around, literally test the waters, tries to go down the stairs. I see her float away as if it was the San Marcos River. It was horrible.
It was really bad. It's terrible. But I'm glad that the weather was good for the junior day.
First rainy day in San Marcos. So how was the practice with the weather not being the typical sunshine?
Yeah, I liked it. I was kind of, see how these guys are going to fill it out, but these guys are out there flying around. I thought the coaches did a really good job of demanding that energy and getting their guys to play hard. It was a very physical, but it was probably one of the more fun practices. Anytime, you get a different, like snow or rain or anything, I think it can go one or two ways. And I thought our energy levels were out the roof.
Anything else we need to say about Take Back Texas? Our hashtag is better than yours.
It's gotten better. The corniness has kind of gone down. I don't know if the corniness has gone down or am I getting on the bandwagon. Maybe a little bit of both. I'm happy with what it looks like. The designs have been really cool. The graphics that they've been putting out. We're at the point now where we're jonesing for some football. April is kind of the time where it's like, when are we coming back? We got the spring game when, and you're really just trying to count down the days till August, till we get football again.
Well, people have asked too, like, does the spring game even matter? Does any of this even matter?
Yes.
I think if you're Texas State, absolutely. What do you mean? You have to think everything matters. Like every single thing is a building block for you.
The spring game needs to be treated like it's week 1. Because if it's not treated like it's week 1, the week 1 rolls around and it's going to be a shit show. Yeah. It's not going to be pretty.
For Georgia, they can pretend it doesn't matter, They've won a freaking national title.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to get you right here. The teams that win treat everything like it matters. The teams that don't win don't care. Texas State for the longest time, I think they treated the spring game like it was just a walk-through practice. you got to treat it like it's week one. The coaching staff, I don't need to tell them that. The players probably do need to hear it because it's like you treat it like it's week one. You practice like it's week one. You train like it's week one. And that is your dress rehearsal so that you have 2 months or whatever to figure out everything that went wrong. You know what I mean? So, hey, you thought this play was this play. Actually, it's this play. Like, let's get that corrected. Hey, you made this cut at 2 yards instead of 4 yards. You got to make that corrected. You know what I mean? You got to treat it like it matters, man, because if you don't, it is going to be August is going to sneak up on you. And then what you don't want, and we see this happen a lot to Texas State, is that the boulder starts rolling down the hill and they can't stop it. 1 week turns into 2 bad weeks, turns into 3 bad weeks. All of a sudden you're 1-4 and you're like looking up in the standings being like, hey, we need to win 3 of the next 5 if we want to have a winning season. And it's like, oh, well, how do you do that? How do you beat Coastal and JMU and Troy? You need to win 1 of those 3 games. It's like, well, which one is it? Those are 3 of the teams that are the better in the conference. It's like, how do we do this?
Life comes
So
at
I
you
think
fast
that
in the Sun Belt. Life comes at you fast in the Sun Belt. Like that's what the baseball team's going through right now. They're fighting through basically some of the best teams in the Sun Belt. Then they're gonna go play Texas in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, it's like, like I said, once the season starts, there's no stop. Like you get a week bye at one point, but like there's really no stop. It just continues to roll and roll and roll. And I think GJ knows that. I imagine the coaching staff probably knows that, but it's like the younger players to wrap back up, to like go back to the top. We were talking about the high school kids. A lot of them are coming from pretty damn good programs. A lot of them have been in that situation, but they're always on the winning side of those tough weeks. Like week turns into week and rolls. Well, those wins pile up for them because they're on good teams. Texas State, for the most part, not a good team. So it's like, that is going to be a kind of a culture shock. And it's when Kenny loses 2 games in a row, because probably going to happen at some point. You're going to put 2 bad weeks together. When you lose 2 weeks in a row, how do you come back on that 3rd week?
Well, and we don't have an Arch Manning type player, right? That's going to be there as a true freshman who has just signed.
Yeah.
Our freshmen are going to be on the sidelines, not having moved in, not having taken a snap, not having done a lot of those things.
You hope that's the case, because there's a real world, Jacob, and I think we both know this. There's a real world where all of a sudden you got freshmen in positions. It happened to Withers. Remember when it was like we don't have any corners. Everybody was hurt. All of a sudden we have 18-year-olds out there playing DB, and he's having to teach them on Tuesday for Saturday how to like do the coverages they need. It's not impossible. It's happened to us before.
Yeah. That's scary, Andrew. And I guess that's why we were so harsh up front, because these are the realities that we're facing.
Like I said, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I think that this is going to be a good season. I'm feeling pretty good about it, but it's like we got to call a spade. And that's why you come to us. You don't come to us to get the cupcakes and the roses. You come to us for the real talk. And this is real talk on the Republic of Football.
Actually, Dave Campbell's broke this story, is that Texas State got a new, air quotes, running back coach. I say air quotes because the other guy was also new, Yeah, Cam Martin, he was a running back at Auburn. He was the running back coach over here. He stayed through that whole initial signing day class, and then he pieced out. He's now the running back coach at UCF. I don't think that really bothers me, mostly because I never really got a chance to be attached to him. He was my favorite coach, though, going into this whole deal. We had a Texas State Bachelor kind of series that we were doing for a while, where we're introducing all these guys, Bachelor TV style. But Eric Stevens, welcome to the crew. I think nothing really changes for me.
Welcome to the pirate ship. Yeah, it's gonna be something. I don't. Yeah, again, we don't know. The room didn't really change.
Not for us.
It's like maybe that we'll talk to the players in a couple weeks. Maybe they'll tell us the difference. But I don't think that there's a big change.
Yeah, and that was Take Back Texas in a nutshell. How it was created, what it led up to, and everything in between. They're still recruiting. As a matter of fact, and you'll see by that list that I had to have Colton help me piece together like a kid's art project. Yeah, I mean, they're still just going, and every day it kind of surprises me when they make another announcement. I'm like, are we still going? We're still doing this thing?
Does this surprise you?
Are there more people to get?
There are a lot more people to get, and every time they sign somebody, I feel like it's like a check to us being like, hey, we're doing our
Still in the
jobs,
loop.
which is good. I'm happy. I'm happy that people are doing their jobs.
Well, they made
Thing,
some offers too on NSD, and
yeah,
most people who get offers on NSD don't sign on NSD because they're getting other offers too, so it's like, well, why would I sign with y'all versus waiting it out a little bit?
I'm not signing yet. I'm gonna weigh my options.
Mhm.
Before we wrap up, I know it's a football podcast. I gotta ask you, baseball concern level. What's the panic level?
Baseball? Well, actually, they played an electric series this weekend in San Marcos against Arkansas State. Ben McClain single-handedly won the first game, took them to extra innings. Incredible play. They had an error right at home plate. Goes behind the umpire. Always keep your mistakes in front of you. That's the big baseball rule. Ben McClain, lightning fast. I didn't know he was that fast. Took off. Steals home. It was great. And that's what pushed us. And then I literally woke up my neighbors, Andrew. I was yelling at the top of my lungs at this ESPN broadcast.
You didn't answer the question. Panic level for baseball.
I'm not panicked at all after seeing
all right.
Nah,
all right.
I'm not panicked. They're playing A&M for reference. We're recording this on a Tuesday. They're playing A&M tonight at Bluebell.
I'm not. I don't chalk up a lot to the A&M. However that game goes, it doesn't really matter to me. It's the Texas game. That's what I care the most.
Have your brother do some scouting for us.
Right. Well, Jacob, thanks for talking to me. It's great.
A&M or UT. That's your barometer for this team.
Yeah.
I think they show up against UT for sure. They're going to win one of them.
UT might be one of the best teams in the country. So if they beat,
they were
UT,
saying that last year too. I mean,
then they were.
Yeah.
Were they not?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
I mean,
where are they ranked right now?
Top 25. I don't know.
Yeah.
They were on a 15-game win streak.
Because I know A&M lost to Tennessee, and then they beat Ole Miss and lost to Texas. Squaring around, Dave Campbell's Republic of Football Podcast Network. Catch you later.
Thanks for listening. New episodes out every Thursday. Follow the boys on Twitter. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.